Okay, it feels like AI news is just, it's coming at us so fast these days.
Yeah, constantly. New models, new features, big warnings, huge projects. It's a lot.
It really is. I mean, if you feel like your head's spinning from just trying to keep up, you're definitely not alone.
Oh, absolutely. The pace is just, well, unprecedented.
Which is exactly why we do these deep dives, right?
Yes.
To try and cut through some of that noise.
Exactly.
So today, we've gathered a whole stack of recent sources. We've got company reports, news articles, some really thoughtful opinion pieces too.
And we're going to dive into the big announcements from the major players, yeah, and look at the massive infrastructure being built and also the human side of it all.
Yeah, the human impact is huge. And this particular set of sources, it was curated with some great insight, including input from the Pythonist programmer, which helped us kind of focus on what feels most relevant right now.
So the mission, like always, is to pull out the key stuff. What's actually important, what matters to you, and all this information flying around.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this stack.
Where do we start? The giants.
Makes sense. Let's start with the AI giants. They've been incredibly busy. Google's I/O conference, for example, really laid out their strategy pretty clearly.
Yeah, the big theme seemed to be take Gemini, their AI models, and just weave them into pretty much everything they offer.
Exactly. It's not just about standalone AI tools anymore. They're putting it right into search, for instance.
Right, like the new AI mode and deep search features. Supposed to give more comprehensive answers and even start doing tasks for you.
Yeah, agentic capabilities, they called it. Asking search to help plan things, book tickets, make appointments, that kind of stuff.
And the scale is wild. AI overviews apparently reaching 1.5 billion users already.
In 200 countries.
Yeah.
And they said in places like the US and India, it's driving like a 10% usage bump for certain types of queries. That's huge and fast.
And Gemini itself is getting smarter, more integrated. Like it can be a study partner now, making quizzes from documents.
But the really interesting part for me is how it connects to other Google apps now.
Oh yeah, Maps, Calendar, Tasks, Keep. It can pull info from those, take actions while you're talking to it, even dig into your Drive or Gmail docs.
It feels like they're pushing it beyond just a chatbot.
Yeah.
More towards a real personal assistant that can actually do things.
Uh-huh. And they teased that experimental agent mode for Ultra subscribers. Just tell it a goal, and it, tries to make it happen.
Plus, Gemini's coming to the Chrome browser for subscribers, too.
And on the models themselves, 2.5 flashes out widely. 2.5 Pro gets this deep think thing.
Right, for better reasoning, especially with complex math and coding problems.
And they mention improved security, too. Better defenses against prompt injection attacks.
Can't forget the creative tools either. VO3 for video with audio generation.
Plus new stuff for VO2, like better camera controls, adding or removing objects.
Of course, this comes with subscription tiers. Google AI Ultra, that's steep, $249.99 a month.
Yeah, for high limits, premium features, storage, YouTube Premium. They mentioned student offers too, though.
And the Pro tier is $19.99 a month for a suite of tools and higher limits.
And they gave us that glimpse of the future, Project Astra.
Oh yeah, the universal AI assistant prototype. Imagine seeing those features pop up in Gemini Live, Search, maybe even like new Android XR glasses.
And talking about Gemini 2.5 Pro becoming a world model, one that understands and simulates the real world, that's a big ambition.
It really is. They're weaving AI into absolutely everything. Okay, so Google's pushing AI everywhere, but then you have Anthropic. They announced Claude 4, and yeah, it's powerful, but their big message seemed different.
Yeah, definitely. They focus heavily on safety.
Right. So Claude Opus 4, their top model, apparently great at coding, leads benchmarks like SWE Bench. And it can handle those really long, complex tasks that run for hours.
And you already see companies like Cursor, Replit, Block using it for coding tools and agents. That says something, right? It enables more complex AI agents in practice.
It does. And it has new features for developers, like better tool use, handling multiple tools at once, accessing local files.
But yeah, the main story they pushed was implementing what they call AI Safety Level 3, ASL3.
And they're explicit that it's because the models are getting so powerful.
Precisely. ASL3 is aimed squarely at preventing misuse, starting with CBRN weapons. Chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear. They're focusing first on biological threats.
So how do they do that, technically?
Well, they're using advanced training techniques, things they sometimes call constitutional classifiers, to make it much harder to trick the model into doing dangerous stuff. Plus, detecting attempts to jailbreak it and constantly improving those defenses.
And they admit it's not solved right.
Oh yeah, very clear. They say it's an ongoing challenge, far from solved. And they're adding security, too, to guard against things like someone stealing the model weights, sophisticated actors.
It really feels like they're trying to anticipate risks before the tech gets even further ahead. Speaking of future visions, OpenAI. Sam Altman's apparently got plans for a secret AI device, a companion device, working with Jony Ive.
Yeah, the reports suggest the ambition is, well, enormous, talking about shipping potentially 100 million devices.
100 million, wow. And maybe adding $1 trillion in value.
That's the figure mentioned, yeah. The rationale seems to be that current devices, like phones, are an old paradigm, not really suited for the sci-fi dream of AI.
Though you have to add context, right? The hardware market is incredibly tough.
Definitely. We've seen some high-profile struggles recently, like the Humane AI pin. Plus, OpenAI, according to sources, is still losing money, not expected to be profitable until maybe 2029.
So launching a massive hardware project, it's bold, very bold.
It's certainly a different path than just focusing on the software side.
Okay, so this idea of a companion device, or the agent stuff Google's building, leads us to this recurring theme, AI agents. Can you just clarify what exactly is an AI agent?
Sure. Basically, think of it as an AI program that can act mostly on its own to get tasks done for you. It's more than just answering questions. It takes initiative, uses tools, interacts with things.
And it seems like software development is a huge area for this.
Oh, massive potential. OpenAI put out a research preview for Codex, an agent focused on software engineering.
How does it work?
It operates in sandbox GitHub repositories. Apparently, its killer feature is running tasks in parallel, so it can tackle smaller coding problems quickly. But the sources say it still needs a fair bit of hand-holding. Not quite set it and forget it yet, more for power users.
Then there's Block, Jack Dorsey's company. They built an internal agent called Goose.
Right, powered by Anthropic's Claude. And they're saying it's giving them a significant productivity boost, even for non-engineers, helping with coding, data viz, prototyping.
And it can use tools. Access files.
Yeah, via something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. We should definitely talk more about that. Apparently, Goose had some early issues, like deleting files accidentally.
Oof, that's scary.
Yeah, not ideal, but they say it's improved. Still, it really highlights the need for human oversight, right? Checking the output.
Absolutely. And Google has Jules coming soon. Anthropic has Claude Code out now.
Right. Which brings up this really interesting point from one of the sources. Maybe the code itself isn't the most valuable part anymore.
You mean like that anecdote about rebuilding a complex system?
Exactly. They rebuilt it way faster the second time. Not by copying code, but because the real value was the knowledge they gained the first time around.
Yeah.
The design choices, understanding the pitfalls, the mistakes learned.
So if agents start writing more of the code,
then the value shifts even more towards those uniquely human skills, doesn't it? Understanding the problem, designing the solution, the architecture, collaborating, applying that hard-won experience, that human insight, that judgment. Maybe that's the real competitive advantage now.
And it's not just coding, right? Agents are popping up elsewhere, like agentic commerce.
Yeah, that's the idea. AI agents handling your shopping from start to finish, finding what you need, comparing options, even making the purchase.
Like that Perplexity and PayPal partnership?
Exactly. You can apparently buy stuff, tickets, right inside the Perplexity chat using PayPal or Venmo. PayPal handles the back-end logistics.
And it seems like a trend. Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, all building AI tools for transactions.
Yeah, the vision seems to be getting to a point where you trust an agent to handle payments and checkout for you.
And beyond shopping, I saw mentions of agents for testing things in simulations.
Right, MBZUAI's PAN agent for testing self-driving cars, drones, robots in virtual worlds. And Google's Agent Mode and Project Mariner are aiming at real-world tasks, too, like booking things.
Okay, so for all these agents to work, they need to talk to different services. You mentioned MCP, the Model Context Protocol.
Yeah, that's a key piece of the puzzle here.
So explain it simply. What does MCP do?
Think of it like a universal translator for AI agents talking to tools. Normally, connecting an AI to every different tool calendar, email, files is a nightmare. You need custom code for each connection. It's called an MXN problem. Very messy.
Right. Sounds complex.
MCP tries to simplify that into an M+N problem. An MCP server basically advertises the tools it offers, like fetch this file or send that email in a standard way. So the AI client doesn't need to know the specifics of each tool's platform. It decouples them.
And people are actually using this.
Apparently, yes. Sources say adoption is pretty high for a protocol that's still developing, like over 4,000 servers already.
But it's not perfect.
No, definitely not. There are trade-offs. It adds complexity, another layer. And how well the AI uses the tools can depend a lot on how you describe them in the prompt. Too many tools can slow things down or hurt quality. It helps integration, but it's not magic. Good engineering is still key.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Moving from the digital stuff, agents and protocols, to the physical world. Some sources are arguing AI isn't just software anymore. It's more like a new industrial revolution.
That's a powerful framing, seeing AI as fundamentally changing the means of production, like steam power or electricity did.
And the prime example given is OpenAI's Project Stargate. That sounds massive.
Unbelievably massive. A $500 billion initiative, according to one source. $500 billion.
Wow. Involving OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank, and the source linked it to figures like President Trump.
Yeah, mentioned in that context. And the goal isn't just data centers. The term used was factories for cognition, literally building facilities to produce intelligence.
So it's a move away from just thinking about the cloud as this abstract thing.
Exactly. It's about concrete and steel. Massive physical infrastructure, like that plant site in Texas, 900 acres, needing over a gigawatt of power, requiring its own power plant on site.
The source used the phrase, AI is entering the furnace. That really paints a picture.
It does. It's about hard assets, energy, physical scale.
And the argument follows that as the AI models themselves maybe become easier to get or replicate,
The real power, the strategic advantage, shifts downward
Yeah.
to controlling the infrastructure.
so things like training capacity, energy flow, access to the best chips.
And exactly. Whoever controls the means of producing intelligence, basically. That becomes the new competitive mode.
Which leads to this idea of compute nationalism.
Right. Nations starting to view compute power as a vital strategic resource, like oil or semiconductors.
But we might see, like, AI blocks forming.
Yeah.
US, China, India, UAE, maybe even treaties specifically about access to compute.
It seems plausible. The UAE, for instance, just announced some major AI projects and even opened an office in Silicon Valley. They're clearly positioning themselves.
And the broader economic impact. Sources predict AI spending could rival national budgets for things like chips or defense.
Yeah, massive capital expenditure. It could reshape economies. Think about the financialization of GPUs compute power as a traded asset. Even real estate values changing based on things like fiber access and cooling potential for data centers.
It's a fundamental shift in what drives the economy.
Okay, so beyond the tech, the infrastructure. Well, let's talk about us, the human side. How is AI impacting jobs, especially in tech?
Well, the sources point to a pretty significant shift in hiring trends.
Away from the sort of traditional focus on young entry-level talent. Exactly. There seems to be a growing preference for more experienced people, mid-senior roles.
Is there data on that?
One source mentioned a reported drop of 50% or more in entry-level hiring at big tech compared to pre-pandemic levels. And the average age of tech hires has apparently gone up by 3 years since 2021.
Why is that happening?
The thinking is that AI tools are starting to automate tasks that junior folks used to do. So companies are looking for skills AI can't easily replicate yet. Things like critical thinking, discernment, debugging really complex systems, integrating different tools.
Skills that usually come with experience.
Right. Companies want people who can hit the ground running, autonomous doers focusing on immediate ROI.
But that creates a problem for people starting out, doesn't it? The experience paradox.
Totally. You need experience to get a job, but you can't get a job to get experience. It's tough. One source even cited data suggesting like 37% of managers might prefer using AI over hiring a Gen Z candidate.
Ouch. So what's the path forward for juniors?
It seems to require more hustle, focusing on boot camps, freelancing, open source contributions, and becoming really, really good at using AI tools themselves. Being AI fluent is key.
But there's a risk there for the industry, right? If you don't invest in new talent.
Absolutely. You could break the talent pipeline down the road. It's a serious concern.
Another really interesting human angle is how our relationship with data is changing. I saw a source talking about Gen Z's new side hustle, selling their own data.
Yeah, fascinating development. There's this company, Generation Lab, launching something called Verb.ai.
And they pay users.
Reportedly, yeah, like $50 or more a month to track anonymized phone data browsing, shopping, streaming habits.
Why would people do that?
Well, the argument is people are often giving this data away for free anyway, so why not get paid fairly for it? And for the company, they believe this behavioral data creates much more accurate digital twins for research and polling. Better insights than just asking people questions.
Like an MRI versus asking symptoms, the source said.
Right. And interestingly, Gen Z seems generally more open to this idea of sharing data for cash or perks compared to older generations. Though they're also reportedly more likely to pay for security tools or delete their data later on. It's a complex relationship.
Let's maybe turn inward for a moment, thinking about the personal impact, the psychological side of all this rapid change, especially around neurocomplexity.
That's a really important area. One source explored something specific, how for some people, maybe with profiles like pathological demand avoidance or PDA, even positive feelings like excitement can feel like a demand.
A stealth demand, the source called it, that clashes with that avoidance of demands.
Exactly. And it's not about masking for others, putting on a show. It's an internal thing, a way to regulate intense emotions to, well, protect oneself.
So how does that connect to AI and technology? All these constant updates, the pressure to learn new things, interact with complex systems.
Well, it makes you wonder, right? How do these create new kinds of demands, maybe subtle ones? How does someone who is neurocomplex, or really, how does anyone navigate the pressure that comes with this constant churn?
Did the source offer any strategies?
Yeah, things like just noticing when excitement starts to feel like pressure, like an obligation, allowing yourself to feel joy privately without needing to perform it, kind of reclaiming permission to feel things your own way.
Building autonomy around how you express things.
Yeah.
Taking time to decompress.
Exactly. Finding your own emotional language. The core idea is you don't have to feel things the way others expect you to. You just need to feel safe feeling them your way. And this ties back surprisingly well to the professional world, too, especially now with AI potentially changing so many roles. Showing your value is more important than ever.
Right, that point from another source. Doing good work isn't enough. You have to communicate your impact.
Or risk getting overlooked. For promotions, or even in layoff situations. That old idea of my work speaks for itself, often just not true.
It's about making sure your work is seen and understood correctly.
And lack of recognition is a huge driver of burnout, isn't it? Even if you're working incredibly hard.
So impact needs to connect to the business, saving money, making money, hitting key goals.
That's the advice. Keep a brag list.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a less braggy name for it, but track your accomplishments. Know your audience, share your process. Quantify things with numbers when you can. Build visibility, maybe by writing online or sharing insights.
It's not really bragging, it's career resilience, helping your team get noticed too.
Exactly. Which brings us back full circle to that idea about value beyond just the code itself.
Yeah, if agents can write code,
then what's uniquely valuable about humans becomes even clearer, right? Understanding the why, the design, the collaboration, the experience, the judgment calls. That human insight feels like the thing AI can't easily replicate. Maybe that's the real moat, more than the models or the infrastructure.
Okay, navigating all this isn't easy. There are big challenges, especially around safety and ethics. We saw Anthropic being proactive with ASL3.
Yeah, trying to build safety and from the start, focusing on preventing misuse like CBRN threats. It's a concrete example of trying to manage the risks. And they're clear it's an ongoing process.
But what about when things inevitably go wrong? Especially with autonomous agents.
Yeah.
Who's liable? Who's to blame if an agent messes up and causes harm or costs someone money?
That is a massive legal headache waiting to happen, especially if you have multiple agents from different companies involved in a task. Tracing responsibility, really difficult.
Sources suggest the companies, the ones with deep pockets, will likely be the targets for lawsuits.
That's the expectation. Even if the user did something wrong, we're already seeing insurance products pop up specifically for AI screw-ups.
And the errors could be anything, right? Misinterpreting requests, messing up food orders with allergies.
Or sending someone to the wrong shopping link, costing them money. It creates this real tension. We want the agents to be autonomous, hands-off.
But that increases the risk of mistakes.
Exactly. People are talking about solutions, like maybe having judge agents oversee other agents, but that could get overly complex too.
What's the legal angle?
Well, users might have some responsibility if they were warned about limits. Contracts will try to push liability onto companies, but that's tough for consumers. The bottom line seems to be, rigorous, thorough testing is absolutely essential before deploying these things widely. Users just can't fully trust them yet.
And finally, there's this challenge of, well, AI slop.
Yeah, that term for the flood of just low quality, generic, maybe AI-generated content that's filling up the internet.
It makes it hard to find authentic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Dilutes quality in search, advertising, everything.
Definitely. So how do you stand out as a brand or even personally in that kind of environment? One source had an interesting take. Subversion as creative strategy.
Subversion? How so?
The idea is that brands or voices that really break through don't just copy the mainstream monoculture, the endless sameness online. Instead, they question it, maybe poke fun at it, subvert it.
They mentioned a hidden formula: brand truth plus cultural blind spot plus provocation.
Yeah, finding that tension between what's genuinely true about you or your brand and some unexamined assumption in the culture, and then creating a bit of friction there.
Like Patagonia challenging consumerism,
Uh,
or Aesop highlighting lack of queer literary spaces.
exactly. Or MSCHF kind of exaggerating fashion absurdity. By being authentic and challenging norms, they cut through the noise.
So the takeaway for individuals, too, is be authentic.
Yeah,
Challenge things. Don't just add to the noise.
pretty much. In a world potentially awash in generic content, signaling your unique value, your perspective, your taste, that becomes really important. As the source put it, curation is a radical act of taste.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from like $500 billion AI factories and superpowered models
To how AI is changing hiring, how we think about data, even the psychological impact of keeping up with it all and needing to really communicate our value.
and wrestling with these huge challenges.
Mm.
Safety, liability, ethics, and just standing out authentically in a noisy world. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, quite the journey through this stack of sources. The whole point, really, was to distill it down for you. Cut through that overload, spot the key patterns, understand what might be coming, and hopefully help you think about where your own unique skills and insights fit in.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought to leave you with. Something to chew on.
Okay.
In this age of incredibly capable AI agents and this massive industrial-scale infrastructure being built to power them, what are those truly unique human skills and insights that become the most valuable? And maybe more importantly, how can you actively cultivate those in yourself?
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Episode Sources, AI Reality Check, 100 Things We Announced at I.O. Introducing Claude 4, here's where it shines and how to use it alongside ChatGPT and Gemini. Stargate and the AI Industrial Revolution. The real value isn't in the code John Air, human at the center. Gen Z's new side hustle selling data. Silicon Valley used to idolize youth. AI is changing that. Business, squashing excitement in PDA when joy feels like pressure. Not communicating your impact is killing your career. Neurocomplexity and burnout. Squashing excitement in PDA when joy feels like pressure. Not communicating your impact is killing your career. Emerging tech, real impact. 100 Things We Announced at I.O. A United Arab Emirates lab announces frontier AI projects and a new outpost in Silicon Valley. Introducing Claude 4. Jack Dorsey's blog made an AI agent to boost its own productivity. MCP explained without hyperfluff Nylenso blog. Perplexity partners with PayPal for in-chat shopping as AI race heats up. Exclusive what Sam Altman told OpenAI about the secret device he's making with Jony Ive. The codex of ultimate vibing less wrong. Digital safety and ethics. Activating AI safety level 3 protections. Who's to blame when AI agents screw up? Brand stewardship and visibility. Subversion as creative strategy. Not communicating your impact is killing your career. Global tech politics. Stargate and the AI Industrial Revolution. A United Arab Emirates lab announces frontier AI projects and a new outpost in Silicon Valley.